last week, pitchers and catchers reported, and we said anything that comes out of pitchers and catchers reporting is usually bad because it's usually something health related, right? And then very first day, Rhett Lauder experienced a little soreness in his elbow. Seems like, I mean, he resumed his throwing program earlier in the week, and everything seems fine right now. But another pitcher to kind of keep an eye on, it sounds like, is Andrew Abbott, who is still slightly recovering from that shoulder, injury last season, and it's another thing to keep an eye on throughout this training or throughout this spring training as well, as he's just going to be taking it slow as he kind of hits the ground running as well. And so this is why when we brought up, or at least when I had thrown out, the Rhett Lauder thing, is it a big deal? Not a big deal. Will he even be in the rotation on opening day? This, that, and the other. The bottom line is they don't have a big margin. Their margin for error is so slim. So any injury seems, or at least a hint of being steady in how they're kind of approaching coming off of these injuries. If they're down one guy, it is a big deal, because having Rhett Lauder, if he starts in AAA to start the season, that's not a horrible thing. That's a good thing. That means that full rotation is healthy. But if you start getting multiple names that we're keeping an eye on as far as being restricted or the kind of taking it slow throughout, it's nothing to panic about, but something to keep an eye on. Where are you at with this Andrew Abbott report that came out yesterday? It's nothing major, but again, we always panic. I panicked. It's always just something to kind of keep an eye on nonetheless.
Yeah, never great to have injuries to arms, but that's why you keep a guy like Nick Martinez around and you draft 2 pitchers in the first round the last 2 years, because depth's important.
Some of the quotes in this article, again, Mark Sheldon had a chance to catch up with Andrew Abbott at spring training, of course. Andrew Abbott, of course, who's kind of taking it lightly. He's just doing a couple bullpen sessions right now. He will not face any live batters for a little bit, so that caught my attention as well. But Andrew Abbott says we're not that far off. He told MLB.com's Mark Sheldon, normal off seasons. It's been a normal off season, but here's where I got concerned. He goes, a few hiccups every now and then. I was in contact with them. I told them coming in that it was probably smart to go slower to make sure that we take care of the problem before it becomes an actual problem. They agreed. They're building it out to what we both believe will be beneficial for us and for them. Terry Francona says you're going to see him a little later than the other guys because we need to take care of him. We think we can nip something in the bud rather than not do it appropriately. We just want to give him a base where he can go out and log innings. I'm here to tell you, I'm not trying to panic or anything. I just don't like the sounds of that. I don't think that's good. I just
I was gonna ask Sam this yesterday, and I didn't because he was in an airport and he was rushing to his gate. But the injury plague with pitchers in today's game is very strange. And I'm not saying it's strange like I'm shocked it's happening. Guys are throwing harder than ever. They're using more spin than ever. They're pitching now faster than ever with the pitch clock. Like, I'm not surprised that there are injuries. But at the end of the day, when you have Andrew Abbott, Nick Lodolo, and you look at our rotation specifically, there's been a lot of issues, a lot. And I think that's a league-wide thing. Jacob deGrom, one of the best pitchers in baseball. I don't think he's played more than 15 games in 5 years. I don't know when the last time he threw 15 games in a season, right? I think Kershaw's been dealing with it. I know those are older guys, but, you look around the league, guys who throw like our guys, and for the last couple of years, we're responsible for the success of the team. There's going to be injuries involved. Andrew Abbott is a guy that for the past couple of years now, when he's there at the beginning of the year, he's fantastic. He's great. When you get towards the end of the year and you start overworking that arm, that's when you start to lose it a little bit. And for me, that's always been my biggest thing with him. If I were Terry Francona and the Reds, I'd take it as slow as possible with Andrew Abbott. If he's not ready by opening day, he's not ready by opening day. And we'll find somebody who is. And Andrew Abbott takes his time, and he comes back to this rotation ready to go. And hopefully that gives him the longevity we need him to have for this season, right? I'm not going to be shocked if Graham Ashcraft were to somehow make a guest start, right, for the Cincinnati Reds this year. Would it be on the one of the first starts of the season? Maybe. I'm not going to rule it out. That's a guy we haven't talked about at all, Graham Ashcraft, and it's you move down the line, Rhett Lauder and Nick Martinez and all these guys, they're all there. We have so much starting pitching depth. Chase Petty's another name. You have Lyon Richardson's thrown innings. So many names that the Reds have had over the past few years that are ready to go, and they're there because they know this is a situation. They know that's the starting pitching injury plague that's occurred in Major League Baseball is there, and that's why when you talk about good GMs, that's where Nick Krall has done, in my opinion, probably the best job, is that we are not short in starting pitchers. We are not. We have as many starting pitchers as we need to go forward. If Andrew Abbott isn't ready to start the year, he's not ready. We have somebody who is, and hopefully that gives Andrew Abbott the rest of the whole spring as long as he needs to be ready.
The main concern for me with all of this isn't even about opening day or the first month of the season. It's Andrew Abbott's concern his entire career has been that he hits a wall at the end of the season. Now, if he's already dealing with the ramifications of that wear and tear from last year before he even starts this year, does that wall just keep moving up earlier and earlier into the season as he keeps, getting longer and longer into his career? Are these injuries lingering with him from seasons past going to be a thing we have to deal with a lot?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have basically as much of a worry about Andrew Abbott as I do about Nick Lodolo in terms of obviously Lodolo's missed more time with the injuries, but Abbott just hasn't even been close to the same pitcher in the back half of the last 2 seasons. So I really hope that it's nothing. I hope they can work through him, all these injuries and get him back into the rotation. But we talked about it earlier this week, too. There's been a lot of people posting projected lineups and rotations for the Reds this year, and a lot of them don't have Andrew Abbott in them. A lot more than I ever expected. So I don't know if it's smoke or fire, Ken was saying before the show, but there's a lot of smoke. There's a lot of smoke with the Andrew Abbott not being in the Reds rotation. I don't know necessarily where that came from, but it's certainly picking up pre any injury news over the last month or so.
Yeah, I don't know where this rotation's going at this point. I know we have Hunter Green. I know we have Nick Lodolo. I know we have help me out, Brady Singer. Mm-hmm. That's like those are the 3 I know for sure. Nick Martinez, we assume, because he's getting paid $21 million, that he's going to start. We assume Andrew Abbott, who's been a key piece of the Reds starting 5 the past several years, is going to have that spot. But I don't know. I don't know what this is where a guy like Terry Francona comes in and changes things up to his liking. Maybe he doesn't think Andrew Abbott is going to be in the starting 5 that we don't know about. I'm not sure. Maybe he thinks Graham Ashcraft's better. Maybe he thinks some of these guys are able to take that 5th spot. Maybe they're going to go a 6-man rotation, 4-man rotation. I don't know what he's going to do. But it is interesting to see what the plan will be, because I think there are questions regarding that heading into this season. We have the talent. I firmly believe we have the pitching talent. It's just how is Terry Francona going to utilize that?
What is your opinion on the potential 6-man rotation?
I'm okay with a 6-man rotation. I mean, I
think I would be too.
It would depend on who the 6th man is. And
right.
Like if it's going to be,
if it turns out to be Nick Martinez,
yeah,
I'm in.
I'm all the way in. I think that's fantastic. If it's Graham Ashcraft, I'm a little bit more weary, but
right.
I would love Rhett Lauder to be a part of the rotation in some capacity. I have to see what he does during the spring. But, he was good last year when he was up. So a 6-man rotation, I think, benefits the Reds. It keeps everybody healthy. It keeps everybody fresh. You don't need to rush. And the big issue I know with Hunter Green heading into last year, I think he shut down the haters on this one, but you had to go long into games, right?
Yeah.
A start's not going to work out if you're going 3.5 innings and you give up 100 pitches and 4 runs, right? Does nobody any good. So going forward, if you have to do 6 guys and they go only 5 in a third inning, fine by me. You know what? I don't care about a quality start. I don't care about that stat one bit. Just get me enough to where our bullpen isn't taxed and we're able to at least give the offense a chance to do their job.
Yep. So, again, we'll be keeping an eye on the updates of, again, in these isolated situations, this isn't a big deal, right? The Rhett Lauder news, it wasn't a big deal. It was just something to keep an eye on. But now we're starting to stack some things now. Like now we're keeping an eye on Rhett Lauder and keeping an eye on Andrew Abbott. And, are those any of your ace pitchers? No, but those strong arms in the back of the rotation are vital for this team to do what they need to do as far as living up to expectations this coming season, of course. And look, I think that's why, the fact that the Reds, when they went out and, the Taylor Rogers deal is still one of the more underrated moves that the Reds have made this offseason because we talked so much about, the outfield and the middle infield and just some of the depth pieces that I don't think we realized just how good of a get that was for the Reds to go get a strong, arm in that bullpen. And it's one of those where it's going to be tough for the Reds to afford to go get a big-time quality starting pitcher. So that's why you put that extra push into the bullpen when they probably knew. I think the Reds have known for a while that there was going to be a little shakiness with Andrew Abbott and Rhett Lauder when it was all said and done coming in. Remember last year, I still think the Reds knew about Noelvi Marte well before we knew, right? I'm adamant because we all were scratching our heads saying, why are they going balls to the wall with this middle infield? Why do they keep adding middle infielders? Like we were talking last year about them moving on from Jonathan India. They didn't move on from Jonathan India. They just kept adding more middle infielders. And we're like, what are they doing? This doesn't make sense. I think it all made sense when we found out about Noelvi Marte, that's the one reason that they were starting to make the moves that they were with some of the guys there. So I think that the Reds were letting us know early too that they were just being cautious with some of these arms. I'm more worried about obviously Andrew Abbott than Rhett Lauder at this point. But I do know that if both of those guys aren't ready to go at the beginning of the season, it's not like the season's over, but it's like you just don't want to head into the season with that kind of negative mojo. Hopefully this is something we're not spending too much time on as we get closer to the season. But you brought up, I like what you brought up a little bit ago about, the 6-man rotation. I'm a fan of it with this roster, even if everyone's healthy. I'm a fan of it to even start the season. I would try to, the first month and a half, 2 months, have that 6-man rotation just to kind of ease the arms a bit and then shrink it to a 5-man rotation as the season goes on and you've got more innings underneath those arms and everyone's comfortable and ready to rock. But how he manages, Terry Francona, how he manages the rotation and the bullpen, that's going to be the secret sauce right there. And we'll find out just how vital that is.
Pitchers usually start slow anyway. Like these guys are going to be throwing 110 pitches on their first couple of starts. It takes time to warm up into the season. I don't think it hurts to have a 6-man rotation to start. If anything, I think it gives us the best chance to be as healthy as we can down the stretch.
Well, do you remember, Jake? I think it was a show you and I just did. I think the guys were out. It was around the holidays. It was the Reds Hot Stove League show, and again, it was Derek Johnson, and it was Terry Francona, but he was talking about with Derek Johnson. Derek Johnson wanted to be aggressive this spring training with having guys get to 100 pitches in an outing. So, Elliot, I agree with you. That's usually how this goes, but I am wondering if they're going to dial that back now a little bit, that you already have a couple arms that you're keeping an eye on. Are you going to be cautious now with the Hunter Greens and Nick Lodolos and other arms during spring training? So,
I said again, I wish they were cautious pre-injury. I really hope they're cautious now.
But, in December, I'm like, I love it. Yeah. Aggressive. This is what it's all about. But now that it's here, now that we can see light at the end of the tunnel, now that opening day is not too far off in the distance, I'm like, we could dial it back a little.
I wouldn't be able to handle a Hunter or Lodolo injury notification in the middle of spring training.
I can't do it. We just gotta get me to this. Just get me to the season.
We're gonna start opening day with no major injuries.
That's what we're.
Keep it out there. Put that in the atmosphere. Just.
I knocked on Reed's first place 2010 geography B plaque. So
I've never, I'm only in there once every couple years it seems, but I've never really taken a look at what's all on that.
There's some good stuff over here.
Great stuff.
There's some good stuff over here.